Okay, now sticking with the drums, there's something really important that you need to be aware of when you're working with live drums, when you've recorded live drums and you've mic'd your drums up in such a way as I've got here, where I've got the kick drum being mic'd on the inside as well as on the outside. Let's go back to here. Okay, on the inside and the outside. Okay, so we've got snare top and we've got snare bottom, and without getting into too much technical detail, the placement of the microphone when double miking a drum, for example, that can cause something called phase cancellation, which essentially is about the sound waves coming from the top and the bottom of the snare sort of cancelling each other out. So one quick way of sort of resolving this is by simply using a really handy tool in Logic. Now I'm going to solo the snares. So I'm going to go to Utility, Gain, Mono. So I'm going to apply this gain plugin onto just one of the snares. I'm just going to do it to one, and then I'm going to hit this invert phase switch, and let's play that back. Okay, and now bypass. Yep, it does make a difference. The snare is a lot fuller when I've got the phase inverted. That's because some of the frequencies are not being cancelled out by the snare hits from the top snare. Yeah. Okay, so that's another quite useful tip that you can use. I'll be using the same technique of inverting the phase on one of these kick drums when I come to mixing the drums. Okay, so one of the key things that you need to bear in mind and keep an eye out for is when you're working with stereo files, such as we've got here, like this keyboard part. Sometimes you import parts that are been mixed or bounced in stereo, such as keyboards or, I don't know, background vocals that have been mixed and bounced in stereo, and there are a range of other audio files that you could actually pull into your project. And sometimes maybe you've been moving things around and the audio file ends up on the wrong type of track. Now what I want you to do is have a quick listen to this, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, that sounds great. However, this is a stereo file, but over here it's sitting on a mono track. Now we need to change that to stereo, and have a listen now to the quality of the sound. Okay, so the whole shape and quality of the sound changed when it was in mono. I mean, there are times when you probably want to have an audio file down to mono, but if you don't, just bear in mind that you need to make sure that all of your stereo audio files are actually sitting on stereo tracks, and this is where you change the track from mono to stereo. You can see down here the level meter increases in size when you switch from mono to stereo. Okay, so bear that in mind. Okay, so let's say, for example, you were not a big fan of track stacks and you wanted to just create some simple group buses for your different groups. Let's say we returned these guitars back to their default position. So we're going to flatten this track stack. So hold down the control key, click, and you come down to flatten stack. And right, so that these guitars are no longer in a track stack. All of our guitars are now outputting to the main stereo out. Okay, so creating a group bus is really simple. All you want to do is select your first part or track and go here, and you go to the output and you set it to a vacant bus. So I'm going to go for bus 12. You can choose whatever you like. I'm going to come down the bottom here. I'm going to choose to name this guitars. And that's it. And at this stage, again, I could go through and I could change the output individually, but I'm going to do it the quick way, which is using the keyboard shortcut. Go back to the first guitar track, Option Command C, move to the next one, Option Command V, and the next one, Option Command V. Okay, so that's how you copy and paste channel strip settings. So now all of our guitars are outputting to the guitar bus. So let's play that back. And there we go. The guitars are being controlled by a single fader, just like in a track stack. And of course, you can apply independent processing to the group. I personally prefer the track stacks because it compresses things down into a single track lane, just like we've got here with the keyboards, and you can fold and unfold them, and it's a lot tidier on screen. But you know, it's entirely up to you. It's just another option, another way of actually handling groups of similar instruments and processing them in one go.